In this video, I'm going to show you a few tips for how to work with the Draw tool in iQuest IDE. The first thing we'll look at is how to work with layers. So I'm going to do something from one of the activities, which is connect a battery to a motor. And I'll use a circle. I'm going to draw some lines. Here's the first line. I'm going to use Control-C and Control-V to copy and then paste. And then I'm going to use Control-C to copy again and Control-V to paste. So there's my battery. I also need to have a motor, so I'm going to use this pentagon shape. And then the next thing I want to do is connect the battery to the motor. I'll use the square tool. I'm going to use the text tool to identify positive and negative. And now I'm going to put my wires on. I'm going to use the scribble tool to draw my first line. And then I'll use the scribble tool to draw my next line. And now that I've got the two wires hooked up, the other thing I want to do is color those wires. So if I use the pointer, I can click on one of the scribble lines, and when I click on that, you'll notice on the right side the layer options show up. This will allow me to adjust the size of the wire, the thickness, and I can also change the color. This is my positive, so I'll make it red. I can also label my diagram. And again, I can click on any section I want to in order to color it. Another thing I might like to do is work with layers. Let's do a fun example. If I use the pointer tool in the upper left, now I can select different aspects, different layers of the drawing, and then use the layer options to modify those. So I'm going to give this guy blue eyes and a red smile. At this point, these are still independent lines, so if I move them around, they come apart like that. However, I can either select all of them and move them at once, or I can go a step further and actually group these together by clicking Control plus G. Now these are a group, and no matter where I grab it, it'll function like one object. The next thing I want to do is work with the layers. For example, let's say I want to hide his little smile behind the motor. I can go over here to the layer options and choose send back, and that will send him behind the shape of the motor. Another thing you might want to do is create lots of small objects and color those. For example, let's say your students are drawing a large number of particles. I'll go back to the scribble tool again, and I'm going to just put a bunch of dots here. Now, there's two things I can do. One is if I want to color those, I go to the pointer tool and select them, and that will give me the layer options. Now I can choose that outline color. I'm going to make these purple. And then the next thing, if I want to duplicate this, I can select them all and then do Control C and Control V. Move that around. Do Control C, Control V again. Keep hitting Control V. Now I've got a much larger cluster of dots than if I had to draw every dot individually. The last thing I want to show you how to do is import an image into the draw box. This is something your students might want to do if they've created a physical model in class and then taken a photo of it so that they can label it. So what I'll do is, if I go up to the top here, I see import an image. If I click on this, I can select images from my hard drive. This brings in the image, and I can drag it to make it a little larger or smaller. Next, I can label it. If I go to the shapes, I can choose the pentagon, makes a nice label. And we'll put this here and say this is the cup. And then the seeds. And I can add text. So this is a quick look at some of the things you can do with the draw tool. Remember, you can use the pointer tool to select items. This gives you the layer options that you can use to make modifications to your drawing.